Hey there. I hope this finds you well wherever you're watching it from. This, excuse me, goodness gracious, is going to be my fifth field experience, observation, reflection from St. Gregory the Great Catholic School. Uh, this time around, I was coming in and I was really focusing on Miss Ratsky and most specifically her classroom organization and her student motivation. So there was a big emphasis on what I was looking for was discipline and motivation. Uh, So just to get straight into it, discipline really wasn't a focal point for Miss Raftsky. She told me as much herself. She particularly believes that a student who misbehaves isn't going to learn any better if you're like, always cracking the hammer down on them. So she really does her best to let the little stuff go, and then she only really does something if there's a large disruption or they're really causing issues in the class. Um, so that was like her main policy regarding this that she told me about, that I kind of focused on. Excuse me. Um, Other than that, in terms of like monitoring the class, she didn't spend a lot of time really trying to keep an eye on all the kids. There were a few target children who she would kind of was telling me she would lock in on at the beginning of the day as she could tell they're having maybe a bit of a rough day, a bit of a disruptive day, and she would focus on them, but she really wasn't devoting a lot of time and energy to observing all the kids to make sure they were all behaving. She was much more interested in taking that time and effort to focus on the particularly difficult kids that day and, the lesson itself. Other than that, in terms of using physical proximity in the classroom as a means of discipline, the best example I can personally think of is today, actually. We were sitting down at the carpet, and she was doing a lesson on everything they had learned. Oh, I forgot to mention. I observed Miss Ratsky's class with her grade 4 English class and science. So we're all on the carpet, and they were talking about everything they had learned about the Earth's different spheres. So, the endosphere and the hydrosphere, all that kind of stuff. And there were two boys who were sitting just slightly off the carpet in the top corner who were obviously not paying attention to the lesson. So she very pointedly was like, Mr. L, would you be so kind as to go stand beside Austin and Will? And I was like, sure, yeah. And I went there and I stood beside them. And it wasn't perfect. They definitely did still try to sneak in a little joke or other topic of conversation, but it was much better, and they did pay a lot more attention. In fact, Austin even contributed a little to the class discussion. Um, Other than that, in terms of asking for student responses, one really interesting thing that I saw was it was during snack time, and one of the boys named Maverick had thrown his banana peel. It wasn't like he threw it at someone or, threw it across the room. He just kind of like, he was sitting at his desk and he just kind of like tossed it onto the ground next to him. Um, and Miss Ratsky was like, Maverick, that wasn't okay. And he was like, who cares? Who cares? And he was like, what do you think your punishment should be? And he was like, I think I should have to clean it up. And she was like, I think that's reasonable. That solves the problem. And you get it, right? You shouldn't throw your banana peel on the ground. What if someone slips? And he was all for that. So he was much happier, honestly, even a little more engaged with the class after that because he had done something wrong, escaped his judgment, but he hadn't escaped any sort of like attention or punishment. I think for Miss Ratsky, a lot of her idea of discipline is based on not a tangible punishment, but a just giving them like the pressure of attention that knowing that she's displeased with them is kind of how she likes to go about it. Other than that, she also has a tendency to utilize a nice pause whenever the kids are acting out of line. If one kid's, beaks off and then another follows and another follows, she won't be like, What's wrong with you all? Stop talking right now. She'll just stop for a second, and then if after about 30 seconds or a minute of them not going, she'll be like, still waiting, guys. Which I don't personally, maybe this is just something that I don't think would work very well as a high school teacher. Maybe it actually is very effective in a grade 4 classroom, but I don't really like the idea of that personally. But it seems to work really well for her. The kids always kind of got back in line whenever she did. Other than that, in terms of motivation, uh, she always was offering little like treats and stuff as a means to kind of motivate the class, specifically in the form of praise. Praise was a big thing in the classroom, and the kids seemed to understand that. Uh, Especially because it was kind of her like big thing, but she wasn't always giving it out super often. So it did feel special when she did give you praise for when you're doing well. And other than that, she also the school has this system where you get a shout out at the morning announcements if you're doing well. And the way you get one of those is the teacher signs a little slip, gives it to the office, and they'll say your name the next day. And she makes it very public, and she makes a big show when she writes one of those slips. So, for example, that day, um, one of the girls named Amelia was being particularly nice. I think she had shared some of her snack with one of the other kids. So she got her name written down, and Miss Ratsky made sure to make a big show about it. She was like, look, everyone, Amelia did really good, so she's getting a slip and she's going to get shouted out the next day. And Amelia was very excited about this, and the rest of the class was very excited for her. So I found that much of the motivation aspect of her classroom organization was built on praise much more than anything else. She definitely had an emphasis on kind of a what's the term? Positive reward kind of idea of operant conditioning. Yeah, it was a really good day. I very much enjoyed paying attention and watching everything the teacher did according to this theme. I think it's going to be the end of this reflection. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you when I see you.